Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I'm your host, Emily Hayden. And if you're currently listening to just the audio, I want to invite you to click the link down below. Check me out on YouTube, as I am now posting all of my podcast episodes, at least the interviews to start, on YouTube. And if you're here on YouTube, what's up? I'm excited to have you guys. So for today's episode, it's not just an interview. I'm actually about to take you on a full journey. I kind of see it happening in 3 different phases of somebody who is an incredible guest that I'm really, really excited. And honestly, after doing all the research for this episode, I am so beyond honored to interview this person, just because I have gotten to see the smallest little tidbit of what they've walked through. And now I get to see the end result of that. And, you know, this show is all about constantly evolving into the next best version of yourself. And this is somebody who I see has done that in his life, and he continues to do that in his life. So today's guest is from Boston, Massachusetts. He's currently living in Los Angeles, California. This year, 2020, has actually been pretty amazing for him. He had his 40th birthday. He is 2 years sober. He just got recently engaged to his beautiful fiance, Kat. He has 2 amazing dogs, one named Odin, one named Loki. And I'm beyond excited to have him here today. So we're going to dive a little bit into his story. And, you know, there's a reason why I paint this beautiful photo of him being in LA with his dogs and his fiance. And, you know, he's the owner of Deviant Gentlemen, which is a clothing brand, and also Deviant Gentleman, the podcast. You know, it's just this amazing photo, you know, this picture that you guys have in your head of this person that's living this awesome life in California that only, you know, some hope to live and dream. But his life didn't always look this way. And there was a point in his life where he thought maybe it was the end for him. There were multiple points in his life that could have been the end for him on his doing or someone else's doing. And so to see someone walk through everything that he's walked through and to now be here today, I really understand why he's somebody that is here with such a level of gratitude. So let's go ahead and welcome our guest of today, Shane Vitko.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
That was fucking good. Oh, am I allowed to swear on
Of
this?
course.
All right.
Yeah. Be fully yourself. Don't hold back.
All right. Man, that was great. Jeez.
Yeah, seriously, I'm really excited to talk to you. So before I was like, okay, this dude is dope. You know, for those that are watching or listening, we know each other through a mutual friend, Tommy. They have a podcast called Deviant Gentlemen. I was on the podcast. That'll also be linked below, so check out that interview. But when I met you, I was like, yo, this dude is cool. This is a real dude, no BS, straight shooter. I was like, you're awesome. I see what you're doing. I respected it. But then I literally spent my Friday night Googling you, looking onto your Instagram, like researching everything I could. And I was just like, my level of respect for you went up a million times. And I think that just speaks to the fact that, like, you never know what someone has walked through to get to where they are to today. But, you know, it's funny because I have such a gratitude and appreciation for life in general. And so I recognize that when other people also have that. And I always get curious. I'm like, why? People don't have that these days. People are so consumed in their phone. They're so consumed with drama and with this and that. They don't just like appreciate how beautiful life is, and you do. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into, I kind of grouped your life for you into 3 different sections. So, you know, section 1 is basically growing up from 0. He was born on April 6th, 1980. It's from growing up until about 15 years old, and then about 15 to, say, 26. And then, you know, those following years, and then where you're at now today. So yeah, Shane, welcome, and let's dive into your life.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take us through, you know, one thing when I was doing my research that you said was that you have a really good intuition. And this intuition actually started when, like, in your very, very young years, when you grew up kind of having this intuitive feeling that there was something that you didn't know. There was a secret that people had, or, you know, so kind of walk us through, like, growing up and what that was.
So I grew up just outside the city of Boston in a town called Reading. And I lived there with, you know, my mom and my dad. I had 4 older sisters that were all moved out of the house. So my life from 0 to 14 really is, this is what I think. I live in this town. My mom and my dad. I have 4 older sisters that are all moved out, married. By the time I was 5, I was already an uncle to my first nephews and nieces, because my sisters were considerably older. In September of 1986, a year prior to that, my mother got diagnosed with leukemia. Again, I don't know what that means. All I know is my mother was in the hospital all the time, so my life revolved around school Hospital, school, hospital, school, hospital.
How was that as a kid? Like, what was going on in your mind as a child going visiting your mom? What did you
Well,
think?
again, it was like they made it very, you know, kept me in the dark, right? But made it like when I went there that, the nurses were so friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was so nice to me. And I basically just kind of got to run around and do everything because like everybody knew who I was. Now looking back, it's like, here's the poor kid who like his mom might not make it,
Wow.
but I didn't see it like that at the time. I just was like, here's a place. I don't know, like my mom's here. She's sick or something.
Mm-hmm.
When she lost her hair, that was a little bit, took me back a little bit to be like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it didn't. I was too young to really understand what was going on. So at some point, they decided you're well enough and you're ready to go home, and they sent her home, and she was doing well. But after you get all that chemo and everything like that, it's like your immune system is so compromised that just the simplest cold will kill you. So here's what I remember is that I was at my aunt's house. Whether they sent me there that night or not because they knew, I still don't know. And I don't really remember. My dad kind of did a I have good news and bad news thing. And I remember him taking me into my aunt's bedroom and pretty much telling me that, your mom's gone. Your mom passed away. And what do you do with that at 6? I don't know what that means. So we go home and I'm expecting two things. Either let me look for myself everywhere, or what's it going to be like when I see her home dead? Like, I don't know that the coroners have already came, the ME's already come, all that stuff. So it was just very confusing. It was very, very confusing for me. And prior to that, through work that I've done, through trauma work and stuff, is like, I even remember from 4 and 5 when they would fight and my mom would get in the car and leave, and I would run up the stairs to this window and look out the window and be like, when are you coming back, when are you coming back? And she'd pull back into the driveway, and that sense of relief, like, oh, thank God she's back. So when she died, pretty much from the age of 6 until 30 whatever, is just a young kid standing in the window, when's my mom coming back?
Wow.
And yeah, so my home life was very it was very blue collar, male dominated. My dad worked for the railroad, and he loved me and made breakfast and dinner and take your vitamin and be home at 8 o'clock, not 8:03. And if I did something wrong, he got really upset, So he was, there was never really drugs or drinking. It was just rage. He was a very rageful human being, and then would follow it up with I love you and I'll get you a toy. And so I'm going back from this like love and anger. So of course over time I intertwine the two as anger is love, right? So it was very at times physical and mental abuse, but again, I wanted to play hockey. I wanted to play sports. My grandfather didn't believe in sports, so he never let my dad play sports. My dad wanted to make sure I had the option to try every sport, and I didn't really love any of them except hockey. Hockey was the only thing that I really excelled at and loved, and just came like second nature. And that's what I did. And I had my friends was all I cared about. I didn't care about my family. I didn't care about anything other than hanging out with my friends and just being cool,
Why? What was it about your friends that provided something that your family didn't?
I think like a sense of belonging, I think as a kid with, a weird home feeling, you look for love and identifying with other people. Especially is because basically it makes me an only child, like, because my sisters would come around and visit on occasion, but it's me and my dad at home. So like, I don't have somebody else there to talk to, or, and this was back when you just had to call house phone to house phone or ride your bike and see where all the other bikes are to know where your friends are.
Right.
There was no internet. There was nothing like that. And, yeah, like, so my friends became my life, and it's like, it's funny what you said about the intuition. Like, I always felt like something was off. Like that I was I don't know if I say charity, but like, oh, there's the poor little fellow who lost his mom, but I never had that feeling with anyone of like, I feel a part of this, something's up. What are you not telling me? And it turns out what they're not telling me is that my biological father left when I was born. I never met him. I think he met me once. And basically my dad, who I call my dad, met my mom and was willing to adopt me and take care of me and be with her. And of course he didn't know that cancer was coming. And now he's left with 4 daughters and a son that's, his adopted son. So I found this all out at 14 by going through his room. The true story is I was looking for pornography, and I went through his room and I found all these letters that my mom had written while she was in the hospital, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was so taken aback, and he eventually found out, and we did a therapy session around it, and it was odd, man. It was odd. And then now if we're moving forward into that other area, is when the anger and the
Right. And so I think we both know that what happens when you're a child really affects like how you are as a young adult, as an adult moving forward. It affects your relationship, it affects everything, especially when you're not taught or shown how to handle the emotions, or even given a good open space for you to face your emotions. So with all of that, having to deal with everything that you dealt with, what happened next?
And I feel like here's the thing is I don't want to make it that, because I don't know why I didn't learn coping skills. It's what was weird was that it was offered to me of people in the way of like, if you ever want to talk about it and we love you and everything. I just felt weird. I didn't feel like that's what I want to do is talk to you about it. I feel weird. I never even said I love you to somebody in my family till I was probably 18 years old, because it felt so weird in my stomach to say that I couldn't do it. My dad, every time would hang up the phone, and be like, I'd call him when I got home from work, and he'd be like, all right, take out the trash, do what you got to do, I love you. And I'd be like, okay, or me too. And my family would call, my aunts, uncles, and they'd be like, can you say it back? And I'm like, I felt so uncomfortable doing it. And then I don't know why at 18, I started to do that. But so let's see. So 14, 15 is really when like smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that around, 8th, 9th grade. And, always I always had my core group of friends, but I always was struggling with an identity. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an inline rollerblader one week because I watched a movie. Then I wanted to be a skateboarder. Then I wanted to be in a rap group. Then I didn't want to be in a rap group. Then I wanted to be in Metallica. Then I just was all over the map. And while I was trying to figure that out and my friends kind of just stayed on one thing, it made me like look weird or different. So that just brings on insecurity. And then even if it was something that I wanted to do, it wasn't cool or I got made fun of, and I don't want to feel that feeling. So the first time, rewind a little bit, in 6th grade was like the first time I ever got into a real fist fight, and I won. And then as time goes on, I keep doing that. Now, I'd way rather identify with that I will fight and maybe beat you up, maybe not, but I'll definitely fight and do that. I would rather take that on than being like this shy, weird, I don't know what's going on kind of kid.
Right. It kind of gave you like a sense of control over something.
And when I was 16 was the final straw, was when I kind of said fuck you to my dad, knuckled up with him, and we fought a little bit. And from that day moving forward, I kind of took that power. So now anytime I got mad or yelled or whatever, he cowered and got afraid of me. So the power that gave me to be like, now you can see how it feels. And then in turn, I did that to kids at school, and I did that to anyone else that I could, because I wanted everyone to know how powerful I was. So, 15, 16, 17, I mean, I didn't care. I didn't care about consequence. I didn't care where you were from. I didn't care how old you were. I just had no fear, and 16 was the first time, or 15, I went to the psychiatric unit for the first time. I actually turned 16. My 16th birthday was in a mental institution back home. That was a fun time. And, and while I was there, I was a pain in the ass, and, I'd get put in the thing and put to the bed and threaten staff and the whole shit. And,
I kind of want to get into like your mindset when you were going through all this. It obviously seemed like you had a lot of anger inside of you, right? So like, I mean, what's going on in your mind as you are like acting out and doing all this? Are you like conscious or like thinking about what you're doing, or are you just reacting?
Yeah, I mean, I think just for whatever reason, the thing that I knew to go to was anger. I think it's like I went from 0 to whatever age of so long of just being shy and not saying anything, to the point of like, and I think that still carries true today, where like I get into a situation like this, other thing that just happened recently, where I feel like I'm backing down and showing weakness. And sometimes I get to a point, and it even happens in my relationship, where I feel like now I'm being taken advantage of, and it flips this switch of like, hey, don't take my kindness for weakness. If you want to fucking rumble, let's rumble. And that's becomes my, because I start feeling like I'm getting taken advantage of. I'm being a victim. People are going to pick on me and step on me. Let me stop that immediately, So I think, again, I see so many things now, red flags or like, hey, dude, don't do that or don't do this. But in the time, from my teens to 20s, anything, you couldn't tell me shit. Even my time in the military, all these places where it's like, I just was such a defiant with authority. There was no reasoning.
Getting to, there was no one that could. So, okay. And so one, thank you for your service. This is a veteran, everybody. His business is veteran owned and operated, everything proudly made in the USA, which I think is amazing. I support that. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously you went down this path of violence and destruction. You went into the military, and that's where you're able to be like, hey, I am good at this.
Right.
You had the operating system to be able to do that. And then what happened when you got out, and how did that lead to you then ending up in prison?
So when I was, I feel like me and my friends always would, like our brothers, or not my brothers, but their brothers, or people that we know were always in the Marines, and that seemed so cool to us, So all of us would be like, as soon as we turn 17, as soon as we turn 18, fuck college, we're all going to the Marines, blah, blah, blah. And that was like the huge MO across Massachusetts. Was like most kids that I knew were like, fuck college, as soon as I'm able, I'm joining the Marine Corps, because that's what fucking alpha men do, not the Army, not the Air Force, the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And 18 came, and I had already dropped out of school at 16, so that kind of fizzled. And I was 20 years old, and I was looking at my first DUI, and I had a friend who was listed in the Army, and he was like, hey, if we enlist together, we can both go in as a E3 private first class, and blah, 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 and you get this and you get that. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it. Because, like, again, at this point, I'm just like, I just have no direction. And, like, what can I do with my life? What can I do to finally make my dad proud about something? Because I just been such a fuck up for the past couple of years. Blew my whole hockey career. Because of how I acted and my anger, and like I got kicked out of every league, and nobody wanted anything to do with me. And as sad as that is, it's what I wanted, I don't want anyone near me. I want to be known as just, I'm a loose cannon, and it's like so many missed opportunities. So I joined the Army, and I shipped off to boot camp. I went to infantry school in Fort Benning, and and then from there I went to mortar school, then came home and did a bunch of training and shit, and then we deployed. We were at Fort Dix getting ready to deploy to Bosnia in August of 2020. I mean 2000, and then they hit the towers. And 8-9 days later, we were overseas. We were in Bosnia, and it wasn't like a war zone, if you will, because we had already kind of diffused that. But what it was now it became like. Extremist groups, or like places for Al-Qaeda to seek refuge at the time. So, I got to do some really, really cool stuff, and really, it's an experience to be 20 and turn 21 there. And actually, I turned 21 in boot camp, so because this was 2001. So I was 21 when I got there, and I turned 22 by the time we left, and I did 9 months. And it was a trip. It was a trip to see a third world country like that, and something blown to shit. And, it was an experience. But now I came home.
Did it give you more appreciation for America?
It did. It made me like, never mind the worst ghetto here. Like, you have no idea when you see a 70, 80-year-old lady with a wheelbarrow full of rocks because she's rebuilding a house. There's no, they have dump trucks and all this shit. Like, they're just all out there. It's like very weird. Some places don't have front doors. It's just like this opening,
Wow, yeah.
And but it's it was an experience for sure, and it's something I'll never forget. But yeah, now I come home, and now what? I just carried a machine gun around for 9 months, and what am I gonna do? And I came home, and very, very quickly, all the pride I had, everything I did just started to dwindle, and self-pity, and getting back with the kids that I knew before the military. And before long, I'm just back into criminal stuff and drinking and partying a lot. And Oxycontin was big at the time. And I got into OCs. And before long, by the time I was 23 years old, I was a full-blown IV heroin user.
Wow. And by the way, thank you for sharing all of this.
Yeah.
This is a lot.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it because I think it's important to talk about. I want to back up a little bit to when you came when you came back from Bosnia, you said you had no direction. So I mean, I'm not really that familiar with after people leave the military with what they do for you, what they can do for you. Do you feel like there's something that could have been done, like for veterans or people that are leaving service that could have helped direct you in a better way? Or, is there a lack in that, or are there resources that maybe you didn't use, or like what would be your advice to somebody right now that's like, yo, that's me, like I feel directionless, hopeless, all of those things.
Well, here's the thing: is it's been 20 years almost now.
Okay, yeah.
Which is fucking
Old.
insane, right? But when we came home, it was literally like you sat down with some guy, and the bottom line was you had a job to do, you did it, keep it fucking moving. There was nothing happened, nothing wrong, everything's cool.
Oh, wow.
There was no meds in the military at that time. Nobody, I mean, so many guys are just, all on meds and have therapists and all this stuff. So I guess, is that better? I'm not really sure. But for us, that wasn't a thing for me, I don't think. At least I wasn't aware of anyone doing anything like that. Nobody was going to therapy. No one was on medication. And again, it was like, if you signed up for the infantry, you know what the fuck you signed up for, period. And that's it.
Yeah.
Do your job and go home. And that was it. So I don't know if it's still like that. I feel like, in a way, a lot of the military has got very more, whatever you want to call it, sensitive to people's things. I mean, due to suicide and due to all these things happening. So I really don't know the answer to that. What I do know is that I still have friends coming home or just getting out, and it's I don't know. It's the same thing of like, I wrap up from a maximum security prison without going to a minimum. It's giving me no buffer in between society and 23-hour lockdown. So it's the same thing of like deployment and this and formation and a certain way to live, and then just go be a civilian. And it's like, what?
Gotcha.
So I don't know what the buffer is. I don't know how that works. But what I know is most of us feel this sense of, did I do enough? Guys did more than me. I did too much. I wish me and just all these guys could go live on on a ranch somewhere and never have to leave each other again, because these are my brothers. Like, these guys, I've slept in fucking dirt with these guys, you know? And I think you miss that, and that starts to grow on you. And, now I'm looking for the next thing of like, what's the next group of something I can join? Unfortunately, what I found after that was
drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and prison.
Prison, yeah. So your next crew was prison. So give us a little inside look to like what your prison experience was, and like how you walked through that, and then getting out of that.
Okay, so I went to prison in. I was 26 years old. It was same thing, September 3rd, the same, or September 1st into the 3rd, which was a holiday weekend. No coincidence, that's the same time my mom died. So September is a very
hard year.
If we're looking at the universe and stuff like that, September, when it comes to the end of August until about, the beginning of October, is always, and I've learned to get out of this space of preparing for, oh my God, all kinds of bad shit's going to happen. But for a long time, relapse would happen. A lot of things would always happen. And again, now through doing work and trauma and stuff, all this stuff, I'm able to set up for it in a healthy manner, and I guess kind of take some preventive measures,
Yeah, no, actually, one thing that I really like to do is I always like to have kind of like a system or like a playbook for certain scenarios, so that it's like, okay, let's say it's something simple like following a diet, right? We're not talking anything serious. But like, I know if I'm going to go to a friend's barbecue or something, I have a system in play of how do I handle this situation so that I can get the end result that I'm looking for. Because if I don't go into it with a plan, then, and I'm just left up to my own willpower.
Just stuff in your face with macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Texas. Right. So with that, I want to get into, actually, we'll come back to this later, but don't let me forget. I want to get back into like, what are those things for you that really help you? So we'll get into that after we go to this. I don't want to get...
So at any rate, we went out, and I went out drinking, and I got into an altercation, and I ended up stabbing a kid, and I got sent to state prison. So I went to state prison for 5 years, and I had never been locked up. I'd been to DYS, which was like juvenile hall, and like I said, a few times in the psychiatric units. But this is my first time, like, you want to be tough, here you go. And, you know, here's the thing is I think about the first day of walking into like a county jail and then wrapping up from a maximum security prison. Or, well, I went to maximum security prison, ended up going down to a medium, but having that experience of like, it doesn't get any worse. You know?
So, I mean, for those of us that have no idea, what does that even mean or what is that like?
So county jail is like you're doing a year, maybe 2, possibly 3, a little bit, but it's short time. Nobody's really killing anybody in county jail because, like, for what? You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe like there's fights and shit like that. Again, I don't know how it is here. All I can do is speak from Mass, but nobody's really getting murdered in a county jail. It's just you're only there, you're in and out, you know. But now you talk state fed time where you're doing doing your sentence with people that are never going home. And I'm doing a 5-year sentence for a violent crime. So my points are through the roof. I'm fighting while I'm in there and everything. I'm a problem. So I don't go to a minimum. I go to maximum security. Now I'm in maximum security with the worst of the worst, with guys that are never going home. So if something happens, I need to be ready, because if this guy doesn't care, I have to not care also. And now it's like, am I willing to make 5 years a life sentence because I can't get killed in, you know, the rec room today?
Wow.
So, you know, I linked up with certain people, and, you know, good thing I don't like, you know, appear to be a victim. So, you know, I think there's easier targets, but you know, I didn't keep my head down. I got right in the mix, and I wanted to fight, and I wanted, where else better to unleash all my anger and hate and everything against the COs, against other inmates. You know, it was a dream come true for me. It was awful and it sucked, but at the same time, I did great there. You put me in a controlled environment like that, I thrive.
Yeah.
I'm a chameleon. I know how to talk and move and groove and figure out what's going on. Plus, I read situations and I get that feeling. I know when shit's popping off. Like, I did okay. I'm not like the most toughest known guy in the Massachusetts state prison system, but if I got locked up and went there to any one of them tomorrow, I'm going to be fine, you know, because that was what was important to me, spending time to make a name in the prison system. So then when I got out, I ended up going back to county for another 2 years for another assault and battery. And going back, first of all, I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this again. But that feeling of like how afraid I was the first day going in there, to how like going back to county again, to be like, oh man, this is what a breeze. Like,
oh, wow.
Like how much it conditioned me and made me more of an animal.
Wow.
You know, desensitized me to.
Yeah. So prison made you more of the thing that was causing all the problems in your life. So, okay. So did you spend a total of 7 years then?
Yeah.
Wow. What years were those?
2006 to 11, and then 13 to 15.
Okay, so coming out of that then, was that another major shock of like spending 7 years of your life in prison and then now being in society again, being free?
The 5 was.
The 5, okay.
The 2 wasn't as bad, but the 5, to get used to life again. I mean, when I went away, it was a Razor flip phone. When I got out, cell phones were around, like, you know, smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a Droid I had at the time, but I remember being like, this is the coolest shit in the world. Like, I get to just look at porn on this. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
You're like,
so
wow.
I didn't know anything about Facebook, Instagram, none of that shit. It was MySpace when I went away.
Wow.
So I came out and I'm like, oh, what's up with MySpace? Everyone's like, no, Dork, no one uses MySpace. And I was like, huh?
So, okay, you get out of prison. You've been there twice. The second time you got out, did you have it in your head that you didn't want to go back? Or
I had it in my head that I didn't want to go back the first time, but I couldn't stop using. I couldn't get clean. So I kept trying, and I just kept fucking up. And my PO was like, dude, like, we got to do something. And since he was going to send me back in, I ended up doing some other crazy shit and caught another charge anyways. And ended up going back. The one good thing that came from when I went back for the 2 years was I quit smoking, because I smoked and then went for the 5 years and got out and was like, this was taken from me and I want my rights restored and I'm going to start smoking. And then when I went back for the 2 years, I'm like, yo, I need my fucking head checked if I start smoking when I get out of here. So I quit smoking cigarettes, excuse me. Yeah, so the second time I got out was, even the first time, it just like, I get out and I don't know what to do. I'm not doing trauma work. I'm not talking about the military. I'm not talking about my mom. I'm not fucking doing it. My problem is heroin. I have to figure out how to not do heroin. So what if I smoke weed? So what if I drink? So what if I get in trouble? Heroin's what I need to focus on. Fast forward a little bit through this time in California, and I realized heroin's the solution to my fucking problems. Heroin wasn't my issue. I was my issue, and heroin was what made that all go away. Because I didn't have to think, I didn't have to feel, I didn't have to think about my mom dying, I didn't have to think about how to raise a family, I didn't have to think about how you buy a car, how you pay bills, how you do life. Fucking see you later.
What made you realize that you were the problem? Like, how did that realization come? Do you remember?
I do. It was out here. It was out here when I first heard someone say, it's crazy how when your mind is slowed down, when you feel okay with you for the first time and you're starting to take in information. My problem was that I never listened. I would talk. Now you go. Okay, when are you going to end? When are you going to end? When are you going to end? Okay, my turn. When are you going to end? When are you going to end? When are you going to end? Okay, my turn, right? So I was never listening. I always was just, what I have to say is important because I was a selfish, self-centered fucking alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's my world. You don't understand. Poor me.
Yeah.
So until I started to realize that and listen to these things people were saying, and I was like, fuck, that's, you hear someone say that and it's like, damn, that makes so much sense. And did I hear that at 23? Maybe.
Right.
But my ears I wasn't hearing it then. I wasn't ready.
I remember in one of your interviews that you did, you said that there was one mentor in particular that really got to you. Like, it was the first person that you really actually heard. And so I'm curious, what allowed you to hear that person and not hear all the people before?
So that was actually out here too. And that was, there's so many people that I could credit to where my life is today. But this one guy who's British, and he worked at a place that I was at, and he was like my therapist, but like not a licensed therapist, someone like me with just life experience that, like, I tell everyone when I meet them that knows both of us that I'm like he's the Gucci version and I'm kind of like the Kohl's version on my way up, like we're still making dough, but we ain't at that Gucci money. But, and that's only because he's been sober for longer and has more life experience. But if there's one person that I aspired to kind of do what he does, it's him. And I guess it was his approach and the way he just called bullshit, where before I'd be like, yeah, blah, blah, and they'd be like, yeah, no, that's sad. And he was just like, he's like, you got trauma, mate. You got trauma, And he's the one that taught me about my thinking was just so black and white and how I catastrophized everything. And, and I just related to him because I knew that he got it for the first time. And again, I don't know, maybe there was people before that got it and I just wasn't ready. But when I looked into his eyes, I knew that he was sincere. I knew that he knew what I was talking about when I talked about it. I knew that he'd walked in these same shoes.
Yeah.
And so therefore, he had my respect. And now whatever he's telling me, I can at least think about it. I can, it doesn't mean I have to take it, but it's something that I'm at least willing to take in, sift it around the head a little bit, give it a little sniff, and decide if I want to drink it, and
it's very alcoholic of you to say.
Yeah, exactly. Ding, ding. But and it just something just clicked with him. And again, so I'm sure we'll get into this, but at the time it was Breathwork, him, a few other things. And ultimately, so in 2015, when I ended up coming to California, 16 probably, because I came in December. So the year of 2016 in California was when really, I wish that I could tell you that I've been sober since then, but I still had more learning to do. But so many things changed for me differently, but I left out a few.
Yeah. So I've watched a few of your other interviews, and you talk about, this whole life experience, which it's a lot. Like, you've been through so much in your life, from losing your mom to, fighting with your dad, to all of the anger and the violence and the prison time and being a veteran, and all of these things lead up to this moment of, you had to have felt like my life is shit at that point, where it's like, because you said, like, where's my life going? You have no purpose, no direction, no whatever. So I want to know, when and how did your life start to turn for the better? Because now you have a beautiful life, which I know you've expressed gratitude for. So, like, what was that turning point? Because I feel like most people at that point in time would give up, or would literally quit, or literally say, like, my life is not worth living anymore.
So in 2015, right before I left Boston, I was destined to die. I'd given up. I don't care. I'm going to die in the streets of Boston, and that's fine. Or I'm going to state prison for the rest of my life for murder or whatever, but this is it. I accept it. And because I did. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a failure. It is what it is. I'm over it. So A girl that I knew made some calls. Next thing you know, I got a chance to come to California. I said, at this rate, what do I have to lose? At least it's sunny and I can go check out California, right? So I came out here, and you know, it was very tough for me to adapt at first because I was still very much on that East Coast tough guy mentality, and people here were not like, dare I say nice, but they were. People were nicer and like not as mean and not like, you know, I have different views on California these days, but back then it was very like, you know, it just was softer, and it's what I needed, you know, because I feel like too much tough love eventually shuts somebody down. It's got to be a balance, like just like anything. It's got to be a balance of tough love, but also having a heart to say, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel, but at some point, like, toughen the fuck up and you got to do some work also, you know?
100%.
And I feel like sometimes it's just one or the other. It's either just too soft, or too hard, and too soft gets you nowhere. Too hard shuts you down. So ultimately they both get you nowhere. But, so I came here and I would say 40 days or so in, still here, and I'm not sleeping. I'm detoxing from heroin and benzos, which is like Klonopins and Xanax and shit, and I'm a mess. I can't sleep. I'm sweaty. I'm out of my mind, and I'm literally at a breaking point where I'm just like, I'm crying all the time. I'm so emotional. I'm crying of like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not even crying because like that's a thing. I really don't know up until this point that I'm about to talk about that I had I'm emotional crying right now. It was mostly, I'm so fed up with life and I'm so fucking tired. When is this going to end? Cry. And I was at that point where I was just like, I'm going to walk into traffic. Like, I just fucking can't do it. And so I was about 36 years old, and they said, you know, we have this thing called Breathwork, you know, and at first, the first couple times they'd offered it to me, I was like, yeah, I'm cool, dude. I'm all set with you weird fucking California hippie shit. I'm all set.
Yeah, I was like, you don't really look like the typical breathwork.
Right. But here's the thing is the girl that did it, who's, you know, my friend Samantha, who is, you know, like one of my biggest cheerleaders, closest friend of my entire life right now. And it literally makes me emotional just thinking about it because I'll never forget, like, and I saw her, and here's like a chick with tattoos and like, that's like nice, but you know, the same thing, like, hey man, check it out. Like, your fucking life's on the line, you know? And I was like, damn, this chick's straightforward, but like also, and I was like, you know what? I'll try it. Fuck it. And I did it. And that first breathwork session was like, the amount of emotion that came out of me, we're talking suppressed from 86 till 2016. So,
wow.
What, 30 years? 30 years of all this shit locked inside. Finally, for the first time in my life, I felt like I just started to let it go. And I went, what the fuck? All the years of therapy, all these different groups, all these things that I've done, nothing was ever do anything. All I did was just lay down here and do this breathing shit while you played music. And what just happened? I'm like, what the fuck did you just do to me? You know?
Yeah. What do you think was the biggest difference? Like you said, you did all that therapy. So why was it that this worked for you?
Well, now that I'm a breathwork facilitator, and now that I've, you know, went to the training for it and all this stuff, what I was able to see is like, I think we developed this suit of armor, right? Which is, I am able to be desensitized and take on so much and not show emotion from it because I've built myself like that. And what breathwork has the ability to do, not forget, but for me, it's not, you know, the chakras and the this and open up your heart and all this shit. That's great. But to me, what it did was slow down my monkey mind. For whatever reason, that mind of that distracts me from feeling or emotion or anything was able to shut down. And now we got right into it. My mom dying, the visions you see, the shit you see, the way your body feels. It was the most intense thing I'd ever done, but I wasn't afraid and I wasn't scared of it, and I was fully willing to try something different.
Wow.
And from that day forward, all I cared about was I got to do breath work. Now, through doing breath work, meeting with this therapist made me able to get more honest and open and vulnerable. It cracked the mold. Also allowed me to get a sponsor and start to do the step work through the 12-step program that I'm in, and start to talk to other people and other like-minded people and find out what they did to change their life. I was more open and willing to suggestions, and I wanted my life to change for the first time.
Wow.
You know?
Wow. When they say sometimes you have to get to rock bottom before you can change, you were like,
sometimes you
took that to the extreme.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
can we go to the center of the earth, center of the universe?
Serious.
It's really amazing to see how far you've come. It's amazing to see the work that you've done, and I know like how hard that can be to open up in a way that feels very vulnerable and very scary. So for you to actually put yourself through that, it's actually very strong of you, and it shows a lot of strength. It doesn't show weakness. So even when you were talking about earlier how, if you feel like you are threatened or you feel like they're taking advantage of you, you practicing self-control is the strongest thing that you could possibly do. I think anyone listening that's ever had to be in that scenario of practicing self-control and not doing what you want to do, even if the other person deserves it, even if you feel it's justified, that takes way more strength than just acting out. That takes way more strength than just batting off, insults or whatever you want to say. So it's something that I think people have to practice. So now, being somebody who was so violent and that was your go-to, you were reactive, you were responsive, now you're not that way. So what are the things that help you not to react? Because in my mind, it's, your knee-jerk reaction is violence. So that has to still be in there.
Of course.
Right. So how do you, in a real way, how do you deal with that for, the people that are listening that say, I can't not act on it. I never not act on it.
And I deal with this daily. I mean, I work in treatment. I'm still working with people that angry, depressed, anxious, the whole stuff. But I think for me, it started with processing and healing from emotional trauma, allowing myself to stay sober or at least abstinent, if you will, from having no mind-altering substances in my body for the longer I can go with that, the more into me I can get. So when people go like, oh, I was sober for 90 days and then I relapse, well, I mean, you're giving yourself no time. Give yourself a solid year with no substances and tell me things don't get better. With limited work, things get better. So I think it was a combination of not having that stuff, processing and healing from trauma, and then learning to. Go ahead. No,
go ahead. I'm going to cut you off.
And then I also got into something called neurofeedback. That's if you're a veteran, it's free to veterans. Go to God damn it, what's it called? I forget. I'll figure.
We can always, yeah. We'll link it below.
Yeah, we'll link it below. But it's free. It's free to veterans and nationwide it's done through. I don't know if UCLA is nationwide, but it's through UCLA out here. I called it a Homecoming for Vets. Homecomingforvets.com. I went to it. They had a bunch of names. I clicked on one, called her. I've seen her for almost 2 years now.
Wow.
And it finally got to the point where she said to me, like, can I just see you once a month? Because, like, you're doing so. Like, when they no longer care because they know how good you're doing, it's like, holy shit, right? It's the same thing with my sponsor where it's like, I don't have to check in with them all the time because he's not worried. And that's a crazy feeling because I'm a fucking liability my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you feel good. You feel accomplished.
Right. So I think this pause that I learned. So like you were saying, so when something happens, my instinct immediately, and here's the thing is I can't control my thoughts. I just can't. But I am definitely responsible for my reactions and how I react to something. So if somebody cuts me off, if I get into an argument, my initial thing is, oh, I'm going to fucking bite a part of you or like, I'm on you.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well, play the tape through. Then what? Then I go to prison. We both go to the hospital, or one of us. I lose everything. I lose everything that I've worked so hard to do just because of what? My feelings are hurt? Because you said I was a motherfucker? Because you cut me off in traffic? Like, is it going to matter? And this is another thing I ask myself. Is this going to matter to me in 5 years?
That's huge, yeah.
So what you just said to me, will that matter in 3 months? Will it matter in a year?
Next week.
So if the answer is no, it's 20 seconds that you'll never be in my life again. If you just cut me off in traffic and gave me the finger, I can feed into that, follow you home, beat you with a baseball bat, or just go like, fuck it,
Yeah.
Because the other thing we don't take into consideration is I started to think about other people have trauma.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I don't know if this guy, his wife's in the hospital and he's flying to go get her.
Right.
The way I perceive it is, you motherfucker, in my world, you cut me off. Do you know who I think I am? I'm not thinking, wow, I hope this guy's, everything's okay. I hope his kid didn't just get hurt in a skateboarding accident, whatever it was. We always want to assume. It's like, if I tell you, Emily, I'll be there tonight at 6 to pick you up, blah, 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 and you're like, cool, and I don't show, and you go, this motherfucker, what a piece of shit. It's never like, is everything okay?
Right.
I hope he's fine. I hope he didn't get into a car accident, because then when it is, we feel so like, oh man, when you get the call and go, I'm so sorry, but I had to run. My kid got sick, and you're like, oh, I'm such an asshole. I already posted on your Facebook page what a piece of shit you are. And blah, blah,
Already
blah.
deleted you as a friend. Sorry, I'll
like
refollow.
we're so quick to jump the gun and assume the worst of other
Yeah.
people, you know. So,
And I think that's huge. You know, have you ever read the book, The Four Agreements?
of course, there's actually the 5 out now. Him and his son wrote the 5th.
No way. Wait, what's the 5th agreement? Do you remember?
Honestly, I don't love it. The 4 agreements is fine. The 5th is just kind of like continue to do all 4.
Gotcha.
Like, dude, no shit.
That's awesome. So one of them is don't make assumptions. And so my thing is like, don't make assumptions unless you're assuming the best about other people.
Right.
You know, because it's all those little scenarios where it's like, yeah, people, if they are so selfish and so focused on their own life, they fail to see that. You know, I say all the time, like, you never know what people are going through, you know, so like even at the grocery store or at CVS or wherever, you know, I've been in those stores before when I just got the worst news in the world when, you know, someone died or something happened and I'm like barely even holding it together, you know, in those stores. And so it's like next time you're in a store, you're, you know, coming across somebody, don't forget that because you literally have no idea like if this person is on their last leg, you know, their last leg of hope.
It costs you nothing to be nicer to people.
Yeah.
And no matter where I go or who I see, and some people are still assholes, but like if I try my best to smile or say hello to people, even if they weren't going to say it first, instead of both just head down, both head on the phone and not interacting. And I guess that was another thing when I got sober was that I realized like I'm here for human connection. That's it. That's all we're trying to do is connect as human beings.
So now with where you're at now, what motivates you in life? What like gets you excited in life, and what do you feel like is your purpose moving forward?
Yeah, I was going to say purpose. I mean, you know, I'm a full-time breathwork facilitator out here. During, you know, we started the podcast, and I love it. I started a brand, and like, you know, I get very, if it's something that I'm interested in, I get very creative around it, and I spend time, and my process is very weird, like around things that I do, like even with coming up with logos and stuff is like, I start over here and have 4 or 5 different things, mesh 2 of them together, and then scrap that all and go with like the simplest thing over here. Why I didn't just think of that in the first place, I don't know. But like, I just take my time with this stuff and think and like, you know, probably over perfect things where like I want it to be super perfect. And, you know, I look back on some of the stuff, like I designed this. And I remembered in the beginning of like how shitty the stuff was and I was going to take it all down. And my friend's like, nah, man, like leave it up. Like that's, you know, just because you don't love it doesn't mean that someone else doesn't think it's cool, you know? Because when I started the clothing line, I wanted to just be like, what would I wear, period, you know? And if I don't wear it, I'm not putting it up there, but that doesn't mean that other people wouldn't like it. So again, purpose. My purpose is to help other people, hopefully inspire other people that why not you? Why not me? Why not you? Like I did a play out here. Why not? You know, like it was horrifying. I thought I was going to be a nerd. I thought that's what geeks do. I didn't think it would be fun. And it was another life-changing experience because I was willing to get vulnerable and willing to step outside of my comfort zone and do something different. I got a commercial agent. I did a couple of commercials. I've done, you know, all these auditions and heard just no callback over and over and over. And the first couple times I wanted to be like, who'd you pick, dude? Why? What did I do wrong? And it's like, you know, it's not what you did wrong. It's just they found somebody that was like exactly what they were looking for. And that's fine. Doesn't mean that I did shit, but that's what my head wants to tell me. So
talk to me about Deviant Gentlemen. Explain it.
So Deviant Gentlemen. So originally it started with this kid that I knew, and he was like, we talked and we were like, let's start a podcast, and we did it. And at first, you know, we were going to talk. He wanted to call it rigorous honesty or some shit. And I'm like, I need you to think big picture. I don't want it to just be a podcast. If I wanted to make shirts or make some stuff on it, I don't want a shirt that says rigorously honest. I want something that's pops, you know.
Cool. Yeah.
And we went from brutal to savage to this because he was like the complete opposite of me. You know?
Okay.
So you have someone who's not as aggressive and nuts and me. So how could we find this divide? And, you know, we came up with gentlemen, and then they're like, savage gentleman, and this, and that name's taken, this name's taken, and we're going through databases and all this stuff. And we looked up the term deviant, which is like one who operates outside the norms of society. And I'm like, well, fucking ding, ding, ding. That's me, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we came up with. And then, you know, so we started the podcast, and it was good. And I just felt like I wasn't being met with the level of what I expected from a business partner, and what was going forward. I didn't. It's not who I wanted to move forward with. And then, you know, cue Tommy, and him and I talked, and it's been him and I, and you know, I continue to work with different companies, and I just you know, I was working with one company, and it was taking forever with deliveries and stuff, and I just, you know, all this stuff has been learning for me, right? It's like, I don't know how to run a business. I had to ask people. I had to ask friends, what the fuck is a DBA? I have no idea, but I got to get one. How do I do that? And now I do, and I got my EIN and went and get to open a business account, and like, these are all things that, again, at once upon a time, when I started going to meetings out here, and I would see guys roll up in Teslas and all this stuff, and I'm like, do they know who they're in a meeting with right now? Because I'll take your shit, dude. Because I don't. How else do you get that? You must have had because I always assumed, right? If you have nice shit, it's because mommy and daddy gave it to you, and you didn't fucking earn it, right?
Wow.
Because that's what I saw growing up. Nobody earned shit, right? And people that did earn shit worked hard for it, and it wasn't shiny. It was just a Camry and, like, you know, good job.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, when I started hearing these guys' stories, and I was like, damn, you were in prison? Damn, you were on Skid Row, and now this? How? You know?
So you think that was a big factor for you, hearing other people's stories that walked through what you walked through and are now successful?
It gave me hope. It gave me hope. It gave me hope to think, like, you know, wow, why not me? You know?
Yeah.
And then this other mantra with that guy told me in the beginning, you want to be right or you want to be happy. You can't be both. You know? And I don't want to be right. I wanted to be the right police forever, the asshole police. You're an asshole, and I'm going to show you why. I win.
Wow.
Okay, you win, but are you happy?
I love it because I feel like for everyone watching, you can kind of be that, like, I don't know, I want to say older brother. Maybe it's like angry uncle. No, I'm kidding. Less angry uncle who's like, yo, I've walked through those shoes. I've been down that road, the whole violent anger path, and like just doesn't lead where you want it to lead. It leads to destruction. It leads to like death. It leads to all these things that are not good and happy and a productive use of your time. And, you know, I know that you've lost people in your life and, you know, friends and loved ones and your mom, obviously. And so it's like when you are one of those people that actually has the opportunity to live your life, why not live it in the best way possible, in the way that makes you the happiest? And one thing that makes you incredibly happy is your fiance, who we are actually going to bring on the show. She is here in the studio right now. So let's go ahead and bring her on. Kat, we are so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful to be here.
Don't you
so
guys?
much,
Of
Emily.
course. Don't you guys love her accent? Everyone give it a thumbs up for her accent on YouTube.
Thank you.
So you guys are known as Boston and the Brit.
That's correct.
Yeah. So if any of you guys have not followed them yet, definitely go follow them on Instagram. They're both amazing. I was just telling them before we started recording, throughout all of quarantine, you know, the world is going to complete shit. And yet we have these two on Instagram that are posting the cutest and the funniest videos and TikToks and things, like just living their best damn life, making fun of each other, laughing together. Like it, honestly, it brought me a lot of like joy and happiness. And you guys truly, I was a fan before I ever met them in person. Like I got connected through Tommy and I followed them on Instagram. And then I was like, I think I'm a fan of these people. Like, I don't fangirl, but I'm a fan of them. Like, they're awesome. So I wanted to bring you on the show. One thing that you've actually talked about before is, you guys you share so much happiness and love on Instagram, which is so needed. And I'm so glad that you do. Like I said, it's brought happiness to my life. But you've also mentioned, like, there's been times where you guys have had arguments, things like that. You're a regular couple who has regular arguments, and how you've wanted to, like, talk about that before. So with, you know, the happiness and the love and the whatever, what's that other side of it that you guys choose to walk through? Because at the end of the day, it's a choice that you guys walk through. Any day, anytime, you guys could choose to leave each other. So why, Shane, do you keep choosing Kat?
I mean, if we're being honest, like I have always been a very womanizing, you know, just I'm out here to fuck. And like, that's it. You know, my space is my space. And like, I don't want to share it with people. I have, you know, prison to military, all this stuff. Like I am used to small quarters. It's mine. Fucking get away from me. And I had so many toxic relationships. And I think when Kat and I met, you know, it's a crazy story, and we're coming up on a year. September 30th is our 1 year anniversary.
Oh,
and
congrats.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
and we got engaged on my 2 year, which I was gonna wait till now, but since the ring was ready, I was like, fuck it, you know. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think that that was a step that I wanted to take. But you know, here's a person where in the beginning I was not faithful. And I cheated on her a multitude of times, and I got honest about it because I was being 90% authentic in life and 10% that I was keeping secret to myself, and I know where that takes me to addiction and relapse. So I had to get honest. I talked to my sponsor about it and everything, and ultimately I told her, and I'll never forget like breaking her heart and seeing the look on her face. And you know, I think she had an inclination of it, but wanted to deny it because she loves me, you know, and takes my word for it. And I'm a good fucking pretender sometimes, you know. I learned to do that for a long time. So we worked through that, and you know, ultimately it wasn't anyone else's choice. It wasn't my friends' decisions, her friends' decisions. We had to figure out what was going to be best for us, and ultimately it ended up being something that we wanted to work through, and we did. And then, you know, still my behaviors were not quite that, but they weren't all the way there, and I didn't know why. And I did things like let her read some of my journaling, exposed her more to my life, like about all this stuff, so that she had an idea of why I did what I did. Not that it excused it or that I looked for a free pass, but I want you to know, so that mostly so she didn't take it personal and just think that I'm just that much of an asshole that I don't care about you. Here's why I do the things that I do. And I think through doing that, you know, that really helped. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, and even one time I said, you know, there's somebody else that I kind of want to give a chance. And we stopped talking, and I tried being with this other person for like 2 weeks. And the whole time I just went like, Kat wouldn't have said that. Kat would have done this. You're not Kat. And I just went,
You don't cook like me.
yeah.
That's right, girl.
And when I was like, you know, hit her up and was like, hey, do you want to hang out? And she, you know, what I'm grateful for is that she was never like, I need you to lose my number. Don't ever call me again. Because then I don't know what would have happened. But the fact that she answered the phone and I was like, hey, could I talk to you? And she was like, yeah. And I went and laid it out there and said, no other girl is you, you know? And
Wow. So when you came back like fully.
I'd have to have my head checked if I don't go try to get this girl back. And so from that day forward, she hasn't left.
Kat, can I hear your story and like how that was working through that and why you choose Shane?
Yeah, it was hard. You know, Brit, just listening to him talk about it now, it brings it all back. But ultimately, through the whole time, I always chose him, and that was it. Like, I knew it in my gut that this man was special, and I knew I had to make a decision whether I forgive him. And to forgive fully, you can't just forgive and go half in, because, you know, then the resentment comes up. I actually forgave him fully, and we took a leap of faith, and, you know, I don't look back. It was hard. It knocks a girl's confidence. But I also believe in second chances, and I believe that people evolve with Emily. I believe that people can learn and people can grow together, and why not grow together? And we do grow. We grow every day. And we just had to rebuild that trust, you know, and it took some time, took some energy. And like he says, he got very vulnerable with me. And I think for a man, I've never been in a relationship that has been willing to talk openly about his feelings, be so honest. You know, I asked for every detail I wanted to know, and he got honest with me, and I respected him more for that. And then you made me emotional looking at you. And here we are now, you know, almost a year later, and I look back and I wouldn't change it, because I'm kind of glad that we went through all that, because it's made us and molded us into a much better relationship, stronger, and we've grown and grown. We've gone up that mountain together. And like I said, I never expected it to go that way, but I always knew in my heart of hearts that this is the right thing. This is the person I'm supposed to be. And, you know, there's a good human inside of him, and that's my human. And I want that as my human.
We're still looking for him, but he's in there.
I just got chills. That is the sweetest thing. You have the sweetest heart. Like, I fully see you. And for you to be able to see that in him, despite all of his really shitty behavior, damn you, is amazing. And to see what you guys have, you know, evolved into now as this couple that is choosing each other constantly and choosing growth and choosing to be in the hard together, you know, because you guys do have amazing moments, and, you know, they're great. I'm sure way more amazing than what's on social media as well. But like, It's just cool to see two people that are consistently choosing each other, regardless of how hard it gets.
There's even times where, you know, she'll tape me doing something and I'm like, just keep that for us. You know what I mean? There's not everything needs to be shared with them. Plus I look fat in that video. Just that's for us.
Look at you being all sentimental. I just don't look great.
Yeah. But, you know, but to answer the thing you said about, like, you know, we always are showing, like, are they really that happy? And we are. Like, you know, a lot of people are full of shit or just doing it because it's what sells. Like, she'll show me a TikTok and I'm like, that's set up. Like, that's not real. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I see it because I just, it's my bullshit meter.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is, like, we argue. We have disagreements. We have days where I'm like, I have to get the fuck away from you, you know? And same thing, like, but the reason it works is because it's like, let's take some time real quick, come back and assess the situation and both be willing to accept that maybe what I'm doing is making you feel like this and maybe what you're doing is making me feel like this. And as long as there's constant communication and you're willing to work through things and you're honest, things always seem to get back to where we're at. So it's like, you know, it's a 90-10 split. 90% of the time we're fucking around and fooling around and happy and in love. And 10% of the time I want to move to fucking Alaska.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
I think that's when you touch on that and you say honest, that's the biggest thing for me in life, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Honesty, I tell him, you can do a certain amount of things to me, but if you lie about it, it's going to make it 10 times worse. If you come to me and you tell me, we're going to work on it together. That's all I need is honesty. And that's something that's one of my biggest values in life is honesty and laughter. And, you know, we surely have the laughter together. And like you said, we really, truly are happy most 90% of the time.
I love how honest that is. And something that I think is key with you guys and why, you know, just from what you said, why I think it's worked is you guys both being able to get very vulnerable and very honest, like you said, with each other. There's a lot of people that are incredible people, but they fear being vulnerable for whatever reason. Maybe they don't want to be seen in that light. Maybe they have a lot of guilt within themselves that they just feel so guilty about it that they couldn't bear to be honest about it with someone that they love. And what they don't realize is that there could be a potential different ending that they're not seeing. You know, no one probably would have paired you guys together. I'm sure you dealt with a lot of resistance, you know, getting back together from family and friends who knew better, you know, but at the end of the day, it's like, you got to listen to yourself. You got to listen to what's inside and know what you know, what you know, what you know.
Yeah, it's that gut. I think the heart is important, the head is important, but I think it's the gut. And maybe they're all linked, but my gut feelings always never changed with you, even through the times of hardness and stuff. So.
Oh,
yeah.
And here we are now, engaged, looking to buy a house, got 2 dogs, and ready to do life, you know.
And I'm proud of him. I have to say that. I'm super proud. And just listening here and being here in this story, it's made me even more proud.
And she's my biggest, like, that's my assistant.
I'm the dorkiest fan ever.
She's my assistant. She's my assistant creative director. I mean, that's who I run everything by. That's who, when we're sending out packages, that's who's packing them up with me. That's who's checking invoices. That's who's, you know, I mean, she's my right hand in everything, you know? And it's cool to have somebody that's not knocking down the shit that you do, or you got to do this, or why don't you change that, or that's stupid.
They're always trying to like one up you.
Yeah.
There's those
I mean,
relationships too.
I could tell her that I'm going to invent airplanes, and she's going to be like, sick, babe, let's go. Let me see what you're doing. You know 100%, what I mean? Like,
I could see that.
She's just down, and like,
let me do some research.
It's so important. And her and I, you know, again, through quarantine, all this stuff, like I learned how to use designing apps and video app and all this stuff. And so that shit's like cool to me now because I know a couple, you know, things, but it's the age of learning to adapt to what's going on right now and what makes you happy and what gives you purpose. And we're going to start a tea company soon called Boston and the Brit Tea Company.
Telling your bad self.
And,
I will buy that tea all day.
Oh, you'll be on monthly subscription.
Oh, perfect. Monthly subscription. Boston and the Brit. That is the perfect name.
Right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, what better way? I mean, they threw a lot of tea in the harbor that one time.
Yeah, I think she's still resentment.
I'm a little bit resentful.
Kat, what is something that you love about Shane?
His heart, you know, not just with me. My favorite thing to do is to observe him and how he treats others. You know, little things like when we've gone out for ice cream and some strange kid was sitting there one time, remember in the Grove, and he just said, hey, what's up? And this kid ended up sharing his life story with him, and if he didn't take that moment to say hi and what's up, and you know, and he sat and he really listened. And I remember this was early on in the relationship. This was, you know, before we were even living together. And I remember thinking that's a good human, that's a good person. And that's probably what's most attractive to him, you know. Obviously, I love his beard, but
beard's a close second to the heart.
Goes, you know. Eventually, like looks fade, laughter stays, and
1000%.
the love and the heart he has, and I know he cares a lot about other people, and that's why I'm such a #1 fan, because I want him to share his story, and I want people to see
what
his
you
evolving,
see,
what I see exactly. And he won back my family, my friends within a few months, because that's who he is. He's a good.
All right, Shane, you know it's coming. What is something you love about Kat?
I mean,
you don't have to get it perfect. He's a perfectionist. You
yeah,
can tell.
I know,
no.
right?
It's just anything. Yeah,
I mean, I just love her, like who she, when I look in her eyes, I just love that I see like a genuine human being. Like she doesn't try to be something she's not, you know, other than when she puts her phone voice on sometimes when she talks to people.
We all have
Everyone has a phone voice.
I think I've even got a podcast voice
Same,
right now.
same.
I've gone a little bit posher because I'm scared of my Liverpool accent coming out.
But I mean, like she just I come first in so many things, and I think that's so important. You know, she's always thinking about me, or like, you know, what is gonna make my day better. You know what I mean? And I think it's just, again, people, it teaches me about selfishness and self-centeredness, because, you know, again, I was like that for so long. So in turn, when I'm not being like that, I'm like a very giving and think about and consider other people. And I think when that's matched, you know, that's what matters the most. Like, you know, we just vibe. It's like no matter what we do, we're cool doing whatever we do. And I think when you find that person that you can do sexy time and get dressed up with, but also dumb down and put sweatpants on and play fucking Monopoly. We have a Monopoly board championship with a belt. We have a belt for the Monopoly. You know how many videos we have?
I've not seen the belt.
Oh,
Oh, we're gonna show you. Yeah,
show you.
he got a.
Okay, good.
I am actually the current. Oh no, you're the current champion. And
well, I'm the current champion. You're the overall. It's like 18 to 16
But
or
it's
something.
like
So she's really the winner, is what you're saying.
You look at this guy and you meet him in the street and you think, wow, he's hard. He's, you know, like I said, but he plays Monopoly with me. Like that's my childhood dream right there.
Yes.
You know, I always wanted someone just to play a board game with me, or poker, which he's, you know, we got to work on his poker skills.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
She
really?
fucking fleeced me.
Yeah.
She's got me
Yeah.
for like
$100
over $100.
No, I'm up from him.
She goes, I'm up.
That's my quarantine job. Make TikToks and fleece him at poker.
Yeah, what's your job? Yeah, I just beat my boyfriend at poker.
Exactly.
Works every time.
Well, thank you guys so much, both of you, for being on the show today. It's
Thank
been
you for having us.
yeah,
Thank you.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. You know, on the show, I'm going to be featuring a bunch of different guests, but I just, my heart is for other really good, genuine people that are doing great things in the world. And it's like, I believe in second chances too. So especially when I hear a story of somebody who has been to prison or has done this or that, or maybe has something that society would, you know, put like a X on them for, you know, maybe like it affects how you get jobs. It affects all these things in your life. And yet I see a changed heart, which I think is true transformation. I think true transformation is when someone's heart is changed and their actions are changed and they're choosing to live their life in a different kind of way. Dude, I want to put every bit of gas in that fire and make it go, you know, because I just think that that's why we're here. We're here, like you said, for connection. We're here to help others, to serve others, and to be the best version of ourselves. And you guys are choosing to be the best version of yourselves individually and also together. So thank you guys for leading by example, for being incredible people. And to all of my supporters that are watching or listening right now, do me a favor, do me a solid. Go below, click on their Instagrams, follow both of them, go to their, you know, Deviant Gentlemen, the podcast, go subscribe, show as much support as you possibly can for these people. It's hard to find good people in LA, and these are like two good fucking humans. And I don't say that very often. So please go show all of the support that you possibly can. I wish the best in the whole entire world for you guys. You deserve it.
Thank you.
Of
And
course.
you're invited to the wedding.
Oh, wait. Am I really? Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode of Evolve with Emily.